On Conquerors, welcome to the Conquer Spirit podcast, where we talk about all things conquering. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share, comment. I want to hear your thoughts. I'm going to share a quote today that I cannot get out of my mind. This quote, when you hear something profound, it just resonates with you. Like you go to sleep thinking about this quote, you wake up thinking about this quote, and you just can't get it out of your mind. And I really believe that's God's way of helping us to understand what we need to meditate on, right? And this quote is a historic one from one of my favorite presidents of all time, the great Abraham Lincoln, who happens to be the leader of the GOP, right? This quote is phenomenal. This quote says this. Abraham Lincoln said this: "The best way to predict the future is to create it." I'm going to say that again, because if you miss that, you've got to ponder that for a second. The best way to predict the future is to create it. That hit me. When I heard that quote, I thought to myself, man, what kind of future am I creating? What kind of future am I creating for myself, for my family? What kind of legacy am I leaving? Now, listen. This is one of those controversial quotes because I do think that there are some things, in fact, most things in this life are out of our control. Most things in life you have no control over, and you have to accept that. But what about the controllables? What about the things in your life that you can actually control? How are you doing with that? Now, listen, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it doesn't matter. You have a choice to make. You have a realization. And that should be, what kind of life are you creating for yourself? Because whatever life you create for yourself is going to impact those around you. It's going to impact your family. It's going to impact your grandchildren. It's going to impact your wife, your friends. If you want to predict the future, you have to create it. You got to create it. That's the best way to do it. I love this quote by Abraham Lincoln. Now let's think about some of the things that are out of our control. See, what's out of our control essentially is, I guess, your wiring. You can learn skills and abilities and certain gifts, but let's be honest. If we're honest with ourselves, God is the one who equips us. He gives us the skills, abilities, the talents, right? Sure, you can learn some stuff. Sure, you can read some books and get mentored, but let's be honest. God created you with certain skills, abilities, and gifting. What are you doing with that? See, those are things. There are so many people out there right now who are squandering the talents and the abilities and the skills God's given them. Don't let that be you. What are you good at? What resonates with you? What kind of things do you know get you excited about life? How are you wired? Because aren't you glad that we're not all wired the same? That God didn't just create all of us to think the same and feel the same and have the same kind of gifts. No, that's the beauty. You get to explore and experience how you were made. Now, if you're good at public speaking, what are you doing with that? If you're good with public speaking, shouldn't you be teaching other people how to do that? Shouldn't you be public speaking and impacting other people with your message? I think you should. Now, what are some other gifts, skills, and abilities that you may have? Well, what about compassion? Social media is such a crazy world. I actually hate social media. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to bite the bullet and realize and accept the reality and the fact that social media, if you want to reach people, you got to be on social media. People are watching. It's an addiction, right? I find myself scrolling at times. There's people who will scroll, and there's people who are looking for advice, and they're looking for answers, and they're looking not to television. I grew up on television, TV. The kids today, they're not growing up on television, watching the big networks. They're growing up in a streaming digital world, and they're looking for answers there, but even older people. So if you want to get your message out, you got to embrace the fact that social media is a place where you can do that. And there's a lot of junk. There's a lot of crap that we'll all agree on that social media contains. But see, it's just like life, right? There's bad stuff in life, but you don't have to engage in that. But I want you to think about that right now for a second. What are those things that get you excited, that get you motivated, right? Are you good with fitness? How are you using that to impact other people's lives? You know, it's such a sad reality when we stop and think that we're not creating our future. See, we can control the decisions and the actions every day. I preached a message. For those who don't know, I'm a pastor of a church, Fortress Church Ventura. Feel free to go to fortressventura.org. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We want people to hear and join in on the conversations. But I'll never forget just kind of feeling like, man, you know, this whole concept of being used for good. How are you being used? If your future is dependent on your actions, man, it should be something that it's going to impact people's lives, benefit people's lives. That's why I'm thankful that I've had coaches in my life. Coach CONQUEROR is someone who reached out to me, and he got me going to start believing in myself and tapping into that warrior mentality. That was already there. We need people in our lives to do that. And it helped me create a future for myself. Like right now, I've got this event with some great people, one of them being UFC legend Chuck Liddell. Talk about a guy who created his future. Talk about a guy who trained, he worked hard, he did what was necessary in order to prepare him for that opportunity. Because here's the reality. Your daily actions every single day are preparing you for a certain moment. You may choose to believe that. You may choose to think that's crazy. But the fact of the matter is this. When your moment comes, are you going to be ready? See, what kind of future do you want to create for yourself? See, there's people who are creating their futures, and what they're doing is they've got these negative habits. They've got these addictions in their lives that is actually taking away from the future they're supposed to have, and they're creating a future that's going to cut their life short, that's going to break certain relationships and continue to hinder their God-given potential. What a shame. Every single day, and the message I preached a few weeks back was every single day you get to decide what kind of foundation and what kind of life you want. What do you want in life? You have to determine that. And you cannot play the victim when it comes to that. There's people out there who have this victim mentality. And I understand we all come from a number of different hardships in our lives. You know, I grew up without a dad in my life. You have your story. People were sexually molested. People were abused. People grew up in the foster care system. People were immigrants. People came to this country with nothing. Listen, but you can't be a victim. If you're going to create an amazing future for yourself, you have to stop playing a victim. And if your daily actions every single day are leading you to become more of a victim, then you got to stop, because you're creating a future that's not good for you. Think about what you want in life. Listen, man, I'm talking to you guys right now because I battle this stuff myself. The daily habits that I have every day are creating a future. Every single time I go work out with my son, who's 14 years old, I am teaching him and equipping him for his future. And in the process, I'm making incredible memories with him, which is phenomenal. I love it. I'm about to go on a bike ride with my son, Josiah, my middle son. I'm creating a future of this fatherhood, and he's learning how to get after it, and he's watching his dad. You want to be a good father? What kind of future are you creating? What kind of decisions are you doing right now, today, that would lead to a future of having a great father-son relationship or father-daughter relationship? See? You get to decide what you do every day. What about your wife? What about your marriage? The actions that you do every single day get to determine the future you're going to have in your marriage. Man, relationships are hard and they're difficult, but your habits and your actions will determine your future. Abraham Lincoln said it the best. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I want to encourage you men right now. If you're looking for an experience that's going to help create a future to be a better father, husband, man of God, a person who doesn't quit, a person who won't accept any kind of defeat, no matter what kind of obstacles come, hardships come, You say, I ain't giving up. I'm moving forward. You want to be around those kind of men? Then you got to sign up for our Conquest event coming up in October. We've already got 10 men signed up. We're only taking 30, by the way. From the time of the taping of this podcast, we have 10 men signed up, ready to rock and roll. The first round of men have already signed up. They've been screened. They've applied. We've invited them to this, and they've said yes. Their futures are going to change. If you decide that you want a future that matters, a life worth living, then your actions every day are going to build that lifestyle. Listen, God has given us all the opportunities. There's things that are out of our control. You don't get to decide what family you were born in, do you? No. You don't get to decide certain things in life, do you? But what can you control? What can you decide on? You can decide that you want to start working out, so you get that in that gym. You come up with a program. You get on a food, plan, and you start dialing it in. You get to decide that. No one has to decide that for you. You get to decide that. You get to decide what kind of marriage you want. You get to decide what kind of father-son relationship you want. You get to decide what you do for a career, what kind of legacy you're going to live. Guys, don't settle. If you're the type of guy who's settling right now for a future, maybe right now, and this is a scary thing, when you can look and see ahead and see, man, I'm 40, I'm 50 years old, I'm 30 years old, however old you are, and you start looking in the future like, dang, if I keep doing these things, man, I'm going to end up here, here, and here, or I'm going to end up with nothing. That's the scariest thing in the world. To get to the end of your life, whenever that is, we have no idea. Only God knows that. And to realize I did not create the future that I wanted for myself. Guys, you have every ability and opportunity to make that decision. If you need help, guys, go in the description. You can reach out to me because maybe you just need some coaching. Maybe you just need some mentorship. Maybe you just need an experience that's going to light a spark that's going to become a full-on wildfire and change everything about where you're going right now. You don't have to be fat. You don't have to be poor. You don't have to rebel against God. You can have a future that you really want and desire. But you cannot allow the hardships in life, the negative talk, the victim mentality to keep you from that. You will never create the future you really want if you allow the victim mentality to master and rule over you. Guys, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I'd love to hear your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. You are made for purpose, and if you're not living your God-given potential, you got to stop and think, right? You were made with purpose. You were made with certain skills and abilities and talents, and don't squander it. You can choose right now to decide, I want to create that future, to be that man, to be a better father, husband, man of God. That's what it's about, guys. That's the stuff that matters, and you can have that future if you want it. Guys, thanks for spending time with me today. Feel free to comment again, like, subscribe, share, and don't forget, keep conquering.